Welcome. We're going to do this one a little different today. I didn't suppose I would have to put my stankin' ass on camera for this, but I thought I would anyways. I want to connect a few dots for people, but I would need to do it on a screen capture because you need to be familiar with a few things. And I think most people that would come listen to me already are well aware of the depth and breadth of my work and what I put out. So they wouldn't be, say, foolish enough or silly enough to comment on this video and the connections I'm making to think that I'm just going off on a tangent about nothing, that I don't have any research in it. And so with that being said, I would hope that whoever would come and listen to this would also have done the research first. So this is so I don't know if this is just going to be a preview to the video or if I'll get right into it. If I'll just talk through it here, and the next video I'll try to find a way to do something with screenshot and you know, do this all. No, I won't be able to do it live though. So I think takes away a little bit, because I always enjoy doing these things live. I don't like to video edit and everything. That's not what I do. So what you need to be familiar with, and I would suggest some of the easiest work to get into this, you need to know about what's going on with what the theory of the mudfloods are. And the easiest way to do that would be through probably John Levi, Jonlevi. And then if you put in, if you look in his comments or in his description section, you should be able to find links to just about every other video if you want to dig deeper into it. So you'd really need to, for you really to understand what's being said, you would have to do your due diligence, which would require, I think that most people would take a good sleep on it. I think you need 2 days of looking at the work. You need the first day, which is, remember, like when most of you came across the idea that this earth is maybe flat, and there's a lot of bullshit within the history that we're given. I would say most all of it is completely either just allegory or hidden or occulted, but it's definitely not what's being said, at least in the way that most people would understand. So you would need to do what I think in any subject is you need to first research it, then go sleep on it, because the dream world has a lot to offer, even if you don't know it. Even if you don't know you had a dream, because you always, as they say, you always are dreaming. Sometimes you're out of body, sometimes you're in different realms, sometimes you could be getting information and downloads that you just go, that's that deja vu that happens during your day where you go, huh, did this happen before? Yeah, because it was a dream, and you're participating in a different, space or time. So maybe that's why I woke up to do this today, because I had a bunch of dreams the last couple nights. They were very scattered and very much all over the place, because I haven't really got good sleep, and I've been doing spending too much time on the internet, doing research on things. And so I think it takes 2 days, just to get a handle and a grasp, and let your mind go, oh yeah, that is, because at first the mudflood thing seems a little silly, but then you realize it is so easily proven that the only people that will argue it are absolute fools. Like, to think that when you start to look into these ancient buildings and these the possibility of an empire just recently, and the connection that needs to be made is to what you'd call the cosmic egg theory, which is basically where the flat earth or flat realm, it's always been in there. They showed you differently, but it's in a lot of occulted works about where we live and how it works. And for that, you'd want to go to Norb's World and Martin Kenny, and that should only take you watching a couple of their most recent videos. You have to spend probably you'd have to already know that the earth is probably flat. Like you can't, if you come into this going and you're gonna argue with me about some like moon landing shit and that the Earth is a spinning ball, like okay, then you're just, this is not for you. So don't waste your time, because as in this whole new year and you know forevermore, you get deleted and eliminated. I don't listen to this shit because this is next level shit always. Um, so being familiar with what the cosmic egg theory is and connecting it to the mud floods and what you'd call Tartary or Tartarian, um, I guess I'll just do a little bit here, and then I'll do the whole. I'll do a video on it, where I can screen capture everything for you just to make it a little easier. But you should all go do the research yourself. The connection about and you'd have to look into the yugas, the Kali Yuga, the ages, the different, because it links up really well and really perfectly with the mud flood and timing of things, and what you'd call, the history that we know and the history that we're given through media, as it's fanciful and fantastical and not really true, but it's probably a lot closer, especially when you realize it's all symbolism, and who the Aryans are and where they come from and what probably happened, what it seems like happened. And we always talk about that, if you listen close to some of these, I would say you'd call them black scholars, but they're not really. Well, you got Egyptian scholars, you got black scholars, you got, even though they're not black, remember they're just highly melanated. Ain't no black people out here. That's not the right term. And you've got the natives to whatever land they're from, which usually are more melanated. If we're speaking about like, what the Aryans, where they came from, coming from the middle of the vortex, the middle of our realm, because there's four of them apparently right now. There's four realms in our place that we live, and there's other places way out there. This is for certain. This is why when people say there's no outer space, I'm like, no, you get off the Bible, leave your Bible out of the flat Earth and the flat realm subject, because it's already was written by the people that don't like you. Because they believe that they don't, that these Masons and whatnot don't like them, and they're trying to, but somehow their Bible has existed through, rewriting and different languages, and it's still perfect, right? Okay, because there is some good in there, and there is some truth in there, but again, it's always highly hidden. So here goes the idea. So the Aryans, which were coming from the inner realm, we are living on Atlantis. We live in Atlantis. There's an absolute reason. There's a place called Atlanta, like the empire is the way it looks. Like Atlantis being, I mean, it's called the Atlantic Ocean. There's Atlanta in, I mean, you could look into the etymology, because it's always going to be weaved in there. It was most likely what you'd call, the Americas, but it could be the whole realm. That's a little hard to explain, because you can't. I mean, I haven't gone back that far in time. But what you have is from the inner realm, the Aryans, which are the blonde-haired, blue-eyed white people coming from a different sun system, a different system that only had one idea of a sun. And we have our realm, and then the Lemurian realm, and the Hyperborean realm. The farthest one out is the Hyperborean realm, where their sun is called Saturn. Saturn, this is why there's so much Saturn worship. Now, they're in a golden age, and so is Lemuria, and Lemuria would be the more Chinese races. So this is why, I mean, if you look at the Chinese people, how they get along, and how their culture is, and their identity, and the way that they're already in some sort of a oneness or union. I mean, look at what the culture has given us, if you really pay attention. And by us, I mean whoever's here, wherever y'all might be from, because you got, most of us are hybrids, like very hybrid, like multifaceted DNA from different realms. So the more ancient ones, and now I'm getting back to what I was saying a second ago. This is where the black scholars, or what you'd call the Egyptian scholars, or the more melanated folk, are saying we had to teach these people how to wash and bathe. Okay, pay attention. They had to teach these people how to wash and bathe because they were here, but they went out realms. But on the realms, you can dip through them if you're at a higher level. So, like, there's times and places that say portals open in between the realms. But if they're in a golden age, they've already been through the whole thing. The Aryans, because they came from the center realm, they only had their technology was much different. The technology in Atlantis was much different. And this is why what was here in the Atlantean realm, the second realm out, we had just come out of a golden age. So everything was basically perfected. Like the buildings, when you start to look at the scale and brilliance of what was built, most of it's been destroyed, but some of it hasn't. There's still, you can still find quite a bit of evidence of all of these buildings and the technology they were using, which was like superior in every way. Um, as these ages were happening, and there was obviously a melting pot going on between the inner Aryan race that was coming out of just coming out the womb as because the Aryans are the masters of the universe because they just came from the inside realm where there was one sun moon combination which was called Mercury. So the Mercurians and the Aryans. So they came. So you got to think of the realm. You got to think of the realms too as air, fire, earth, and water. There's four of them right now. There's air, fire, earth, and water. This is how we observe things. And if Atlantis has everything to do with water, and Aryan has everything to do with air. So these other realms must have something to do with fire and earth. And you would see the culture of the darker people as probably the fire culture, and the culture of the Asian or the yellow people as probably more of the earth people. I mean, even the way that they exist is would show you this. I mean, you can look into the more tribal rituals of the keepers of the fire. Asian people are not associated with fire, only within dragons, but they're very earth-based people, lizards and things like this. And even the dragons being in that sense, like, so I don't want to go too far with that. So here's what's probably occurred as these epochs, as these sets of time blossom from the middle, just like a seed grows. People were aware that new ages come about. So these new ages, there were people that were Hyperborean that stayed here in Atlantis, knowing damn well that the age of their golden age in Atlantis, where we live, that they lived too with the Asians, which you'd call Asian, but the Chinese, the Asian, and what you'd call the really melanated black people, and then what you'd call the people in Atlantis, which probably were what you'd call the Indian people, the dot. That's who lived here, and then you had the white people that were coming from the inside out, what you'd call the white race, the very white people, because they weren't kissed by the sun as much yet, right? So you had people that knew how the realms work because they're in the golden age. So they've been through the cycles. They already went through the iron age, the silver age. They've gone through this. So if they're in their golden age and knowing it's coming to an end, some of them said, we'll stick around, fuck it, because somebody needs to be here. Somebody needs to stick around here and instruct and teach. It has to be done because no matter what, the next generation needs to blossom, right? And the next generation was another race or species of people. I mean, we're all human, but wildly different in our characteristics and where our powers originally lie. I mean, once you get to the golden age, you're pretty much in the same realm, same level with everything. So if you think of these movies and what's going on in these movies and the story they're telling you, or even think of the Chinese masters. Think of these movies. Think of the Chinese master that doesn't teach his student everything, keeps one thing to himself, but the student ends up trying to kill the master. Well, that's what the Aryans basically did with this realm, because as they were going to the next realm out of their Iron Age into the next age for them, so out of the Iron and into the Bronze Age, as they were stepping up, some of them already were getting the knowledge. The Aryans were like read all of the stories. The Aryans sometimes were stealing knowledge and hoarding knowledge. Now, I'm not saying all Aryans because it gets very convoluted as to if you're talking about the Zionists, if you're talking about the people that are Bible literalists, you talk about the Hebrew, who the true Hebrew Israelites are, probably black people, and this goes into their teachings. But it was so occulted. Some of the Aryans took that and branched off and tried to do something new. If you look into the swastika, you look into all of these different symbols. So these are the same symbols, but some of them got inverted. And it has to do with vortexes of energy and the black box of Kaaba and the Cabal and the Kabbalion and the cable. And this is this spinning, this cycle that occurs. So if these more powerful beings, call them giants, there was probably giants, and we kind of assume this as so much of the history has been whitewashed and eradicated. The burning of the books in Atlantis, or this is back to the Atlantis thing and the burning the libraries and Alexandria. It's allegory, but it happened everywhere. It's not. There was there was book burnings in what you call the Americas in the 50s. Like there was a convention called the Leipzig Convention, which occurs every year, by what you'd call the ISO, International Standards Organization, which sets standards on what the world is. They're kind of the controllers, and they had started to change the language. So what people used to think of as the meaning of certain words started to get changed, and this happened. I used to have dictionaries that I could look at the dictionary definitions for words that were just like polar opposite because they decided to change them, cause confusion amongst the language. So now what we see here is people that were coming out as the Aryans or the fake Aryans, which seems like some of them. I mean, maybe they're not the fake Aryans, but they took in the knowledge they were given and they ran amok with it. And so what you'd call this mudflood or this event was known universally as the great knowledge keepers. As there's an in-breath, there's an out-breath. There's a ebb and a flow to everything. They knew this. So some of them stayed here, some of them went to Lemuria, some of them went back to Hyperborea, and some of them probably even went into where you call the Aryan realm, the inner realm. But then the majority of people that got onto the Atlantean realm, because they knew this thing was coming, the people in our realm were leaving because they're like, we're about to go from the Golden Age into the fucking Iron Age. Why would we stay here? We're going that way. And so they went that way. They dipped out into the Lemurian realm, or they dipped into the Aryan realm. Either way, it was going to be better what was going on here, which was a bunch of people coming in and, basically parasiting the knowledge. A pair of, this parroting and parasiting off of the knowledge. And the knowledge was, even the technology, that what was going on in these buildings. They didn't build these things. These buildings have been here. They were here from the last civilization that was here building that. Actually, true master masons. Seriously, go to a lodge, go talk to these master masons. Ask them how many of them have ever picked up Masonic tools. Ask them how many have built a temple. Ask them how many have actually built a home. None of them. I'm not gonna say none of them, but you know what I'm saying. This is getting at, like, I'm not saying nothing down on Freemasonry by no means. I'm just saying that the knowledge. I mean, the highest knowledge is something else. It has to do with metaphysics, but certainly what's going on this realm was that there was an influx of people, which you look at when you look into all of these the orphans and who the slaves were, which were the Slavic people that got brought over here the influx of what you call the white people. Where did they come from? In every way, they came from another realm. That's where they came from, and they just came out somewhere going, look at all of this. They came from what was coming out of an iron age into the next age. In this realm of Atlantis, the Atlantean realm was getting influxed with Aryans, but the technology here was already fucking supreme. The architecture was supreme. You can look all over the world and you see the architecture is just fucking brilliant. And there was uses for it. And they came in, and so they're sitting around in a horse and buggies using fire like they just came out of nowhere. They came off an island of nowhere land of not knowing how high technology worked. And then a bunch of people just took it over because they knew there was something happening, a change of the ages. Call it the Mudflood, call it whatever you want. I mean, it could have been natural, it could have been artificially done, but it would seem like the Aryans took some of the high technology and used it against the realm, thereby using tones, vibrations, sounds, cymatics, to raise waters, to muddy the waters, you know, to which then we can see the evidence of as clearly as anything if you spend the time doing it. The picture after picture of these buildings, it's you could walk around your city and I guarantee you'll find buildings that if you have any clue whatsoever as to what architecture is, if you have any clue whatsoever to ever having built a house, you would know that when these people start talking about, and you could talk to real deal architects and engineers, and if you point these things out, they'd be like, you know, some of them that are part of they can't say shit because they already tapped in. They're part of a club where they're not allowed to speak about it. But there's some that aren't part of it. They're just out doing their thing, and they'll tell you. They're like, no, that's not possible. There's no way that was possible in 1880. There's no way it was possible. So what you see is people, there's probably this energy technology used. You call them DWs, you call them direct energy, you call them whatever, mudfloods, all of this probably occurred to some degree. There was some, you know, I think the idea of what world wars were and what even civil war and everything else, I think it wasn't exactly what you're, I think it was a play. I think there was something else going on. I'm not suggesting that people didn't die, and I'm not suggesting there wasn't crazy shit going on, but I think it happened in a much more deliberate way. Kind of like the, you know, go down the yellow brick road. What's at the end? Somebody just, some little what? What is he supposed to be? The little guy just screaming in the mic, putting the scary faces on everything? He was manipulating everything. But he was really nothing. It's just, and that is in every way connected to what you'd call the Zionists. This is what most people would say, and I don't know. I don't know them like that. I ain't gonna put it on the whole race of the Jews because I know who the Jews were. The Jews are most likely connected to the Jews are not the Jewish people. There's two different things. You know, you get into what's the Hebrew? Who's the Israelites? Are they the black people? Were they the melanated? So what was happening? I'm going to just touch on this again. Is the knowledge of the ages switching because there's more people coming in from the Aryan realm that are actually dumbed down because they didn't come from a golden age. So you have these people that they're in a golden age that stayed here going, the shit's about to, you know, fucking hit the fan. We'll stay and fix it. We'll stay and show these people what's up. Because it just takes a little bit of a cycle. And so this realm was all of the glory of architecture and wisdom was perverted, inverted, and disguised and hidden and occulted. And some of us see what's going on. Others already knew. Some of us get it from the dream world. Some of it get it from walking around in the physical reality. Some of it get it through mouth to ear teaching. And, you know, and if you're really keen, you can get it through books, but not really. You can't really get this shit through books. So many people ask, like, where did you get all this information? Show me the source code. Where'd you get it from? Like, I've read so many books. And it's a hybridization of all of the knowledge that I've gotten. So it's, you can't just go, okay, well, I'm a specialist in building airplanes. Yeah. So what is that? How does that make you see the larger picture? I mean, if you You know, I mean, if you really were a pilot on an airplane, you'd have knowledge of how flat the realm is. And there's some that know, but they already they can't say. They can't say whether it is or isn't. The paycheck is too nice. The paycheck is way too nice. So, as what they call the apocalypse, it's just a changing of time, which seems to be, even though they added some history, they deleted some history, because they knew there was another reset occurring. And so they're trying to maintain power through the reset, which is what you call the next cosmic clock, the next ticking of the cosmic clock, which is a big one, which is where Atlanteans, where we get out of the, we get back out of the Iron Age. This is what is occurring here. You're getting out of the Iron Age, and so so the Bronze Age that would be occurring here is akin to, like, if we look at what iron is. I did a video maybe a year and a half ago, and it was about it was about how the Vikings or the Six Kings, and where everybody started to, like, need iron. They needed an iron-rich diet. Everybody's on this iron thing. Iron is not good for you. Iron is magnetic, and it's used as a poison, because people don't think of, you have to think of it this way: there's organic and inorganic varieties of everything, and so we got too caught up on, oh, you need iron. No, I mean, there's iron in plants that's usable, assimilable by the human body, where the iron that's in your pan is not. There's so many, every element has its basic counterpart in the organic living world, but we've been fooled into believing that it's because they use the same word, but they didn't let you know that one was inorganic and one was organic. You get an iron pan, it doesn't die, but you have iron in a tomato or potato or whatever. Well, that there's something different in there. That element is part of a living structure and system, so you know it works. You know it's already functioning. It's not, the banana doesn't rust, as it were, but iron certainly does. And so you start putting iron in your body. And what do? You put iron in your body. Go put some salt and water on iron and watch how it becomes corroded. It will corrode it. And I mean, I could even I go farther into the words corroding, and get into the word catheter and cathedrals, and what's going on from the etymological standpoints. But this is shit. This is how it worked. You know, this is. I can't point to this and say it's 100% fact. I can't. You know, there are facts have overrun the world. This is a land of imagination. But there is some reality to this realm, and being in this realm requires a certain type of knowledge, and some people are here to be worker bees and learn something, and some people already know, some people are within the gnosis of the knowledge, and yeah, I mean, if you do your due diligence, if you do your research, and you start, and you'll easily make these connections. You'll easily, once you start to see the grandeur of these buildings, and you start to ask yourself the simple questions: where was the building material coming from? Where, especially in America, in what you call America, right? 1776, some people come over here. Then all of a sudden, and this is just when they start coming over. And as they're coming here, aren't they pillaging and killing and destroying all of the natives? I mean, I don't know if it happened that way, to the degree that people are saying. It happened in a different way. I don't want to get into all that here, but so now 1776, so now about 1800, some people are getting here, like really starting to get, apparently. But there's so many slaves, right? They were all packed like on a like fucking tuna fish in a ship. They'd all been dead. It wouldn't have worked unless you were bringing people over on luxury cruise liners, saying, "Hey, have a getaway, have a trip. Come on from here." They come from the Aryan realm. They come from probably what you'd call the Tartarian Empire, which was a connection between, you'd say like what you call Russian, and the Asian, or the Aryan, excuse me. So 1830s, and people now, we got a decent amount of people here, but by 1850 people are really cropping up, building these giant buildings. They're pushing horses and buggies around. They're not using electricity, and everyone that comes here has to be, 100% of them have to be, to build these things by hand. You have to have the tools to cut the trees down. They didn't have these. Where did they get them from? You have to make them. So where are all the factories making all the bricks? Where are all of the Do you know what it takes to build it? Where are they getting all of this beautiful marble? Where'd they get it from? Do you know what it takes to mine marble? Do you know how heavy it is? So these giant buildings with marble archways and buttresses and all of this that goes on within building something, where are these people coming from? You just got off of a ship and you're like, oh, let's just start up industry. Even though they don't have any power tools, they got no electricity, they're on horse and buggy. We got no evidence of them building the shit. You got a couple pictures of like a couple wooden frames around these giant things. You're gonna take a. Do you know how heavy a piece of marble is? A column. It's insane. Have you ever laid even a kitchen countertop? Usually it's about 3/4 inch, 7/8 inch thick. 10 feet of that. Do you know how heavy that shit is? Do you know how many hundreds of pounds that thing is with your countertop? And we're talking about marble, like, do you see the size difference? Do you know how many tens of thousands of pounds these things are? And you're telling me that a horse and a buggy is going to pull these things along after they got them from who knows where, and then they're going to walk them up this rickety scaffolding made out of wood and iron, and you're going to put 10,000 pounds plus, and then get a statue on top and put it's. I mean, okay, but still, don't, dimension extensions. I mean, don't take away from the larger point here, my dude. Okay, it's only in certain locations, but it still doesn't get rid of the point of where all of this, where are they getting everything from? Because to even start the industry, you have to already have made the tools to, and you have to have the buildings. So they needed to. How do you start an industry if there's nothing there? It's just barren land. You need to be able to make the tools to then make the buildings in which to make the tools with. You see? You don't just come over on ships and then build a building because you don't have the tools. Because if you had the tools, okay, let me just say this one more time, because this is so simple. All of the different industries that go into making a house, a tiny house is a lot. You could have framers and plumbers, and you could have the architects, you could have the people that draw all the designs. That takes a long time, and these people weren't working with CAD. They weren't working with CAD. They weren't working with computers. Apparently, they were working hand drawing blueprints. And Valio, I mean, yeah, I hear you, Stephen. Sacred geometry, you just say the word. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't change how these things were put up and where it came from. Still, the information is valid. Like, you can't make the tools. The tools had to be made to make the building, not to make the building that we're talking about, which there's tens of thousands of across the whole plane. But we're just talking about America here. Just pick a city, and it's absurd. In the 1880s, so you're telling me in 50 years' time, it is a literal impossibility. There's not enough numbers. There's not enough numbers of people there to come here with the knowledge, as they're on remember buggies and horses. They don't even have tools. Now you gotta build the tools, because you'd already have to start digging the earth up. How are you digging the earth up? You didn't have a tool. So you got to make the first tool to then start digging the earth up to make more tools to then. It's a compound interest system. It's a compounding it's compounding dilemmas here. Then you had to dig up the earth to get more stuff, to build more tools, to then just build the building that you're going to manufacture one aspect of one of these giant buildings with. We ain't even getting into the problems with getting these things up in the air. Pulleys and levers and wooden this and iron that. Bullshit. That's all it is. That's all there is to it. You can't. The numbers and it doesn't add up in any way. How many things go into building these things? How many? You know? It's not about manpower. It's not even about the knowledge. I mean, yeah, if you're a real deal like shaman out here, you could probably be at the end of time just producing objects with your mind. Maybe that's what happened before, but it's still proof. It's still proof. It's still proof to what I'm saying is the knowledge was much higher, the technology was much higher. So it was the mind that did it. So what? I'll accept that. I can easily accept that the mind built all those buildings. But the people that came through next, they weren't using their mind. But I would say there's more something like the mind created the technology, and therefore the technology was already there. So when we get into all of the buildings, I've done this before, and I'm going to just say it again, and I just it's buffoonery whenever I go and watch these videos by these really brilliant people doing some great work on mudfloods, and then I see a couple wannabe truthers, actually some people that have big channels that like the mudflood is just another, it's muddying the water, it's not important. And I mean these are flat earthers, but they're either flat earther Bible people, or flat earth vegan people, or flat earth, and I'm not saying the person on here flat earth vegan, I'm not saying that person. I'm just saying that there's all of these subset and cultures that won't take a look at the larger picture of what's going on here. So no matter how these buildings were built, it couldn't have been done with people with horses and buggies. It just can't. It's the timeline is so skewed on how long it would take to build one of these buildings. The size of them. Go start looking into the world's fairs. They're building these giant buildings. Some of them excess hundreds of buildings that are so far beyond of what we're capable of doing today. Today I could go out here. I couldn't find enough craftsmen and masons and plumbers and everything right now in this country and have them set up a city that looks like Chicago when it was built in 1860 for the World's Fair. Couldn't be done because they said it was done in like a year and a half or 2 years. It's laughable. It is absolutely laughable. You know? The timing is so, like, I know I just keep bumbling and stumbling over this, repeating this. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you about the tools that were used to build the structures. Okay, so be it. You know, of course I think it was etheric. I think it was mental, spiritual, etheric, blah blah blah. You know, mind magic. But okay, but it still goes to prove the point that I'm trying to make, which is it wasn't these people that supposedly inherited the buildings and shit. It's not the people that are in them now, or even in 1860s, 1870s, 1880s. They couldn't have been built by what we're working with right now. When was the tech lost? I can't give you an exact date, but there seems to be something between the year, 1812, without a summer, and something in 1860, I think it's called the... Oh, I forget, the Carrington event. So there's something in there that seems to be like, I think you could probably mathematically describe what occurred if we could sense how energy vortex out of something and look along a scale of time, what we'd consider time, to see when these things happened, where the mudfloods, how the mudfloods occurred, in what direction and shit. I think we might be able to do that, but that still doesn't, you know, that is a little less important. And it's more important of understanding that this whether it was the mind or actual technology. And the dates have been manipulated. I think we're probably off by, some people said, like 1,000 years or whatever. But I just need to reiterate this again and again, that these giant buildings, go into your city and find the biggest, most wonderful buildings. They're the oldest ones, and the level of detail in architecture right now, if you had to walk through it and start qualifying how long each thing is going to take to build, you're going to come to the conclusion that you'll probably be in the 3 to 4 year range. But that's even saying you have all of it set up and ready to go and architected. If I said right now I want to build this building that looks like the Palace of Versailles, do you know how long that would take? That would take, I mean, I'm saying like 10 years, 12 years. But that would be even considering that I could find enough people that were even qualified to do the job. And in 1880, there wasn't enough people qualified to do the job. Not even close. It wasn't even. It's not even a. It's not even a question. They just started up. They just came here apparently to what you'd call America, and there's wars going on, and they're battling with cannons and rifles apparently. But they had time to build all of these huge buildings. But then, you know what? Then they all got burnt down. Every city had a fire. There's all burnt down. Buildings made of concrete and brick and mortar and marble and all of these things, which don't burn, burnt down. Doesn't sound right. That's not how it worked. Can't be. So, yeah, I think I turned that into a lot longer than I wanted to go on about this. And I'll scroll through your comments. I'm gonna start at the bottom and go backwards. So if you asked a question first, I'm gonna answer you last. Yeah, Gary, I would think, it's hard to say what the how cities were attacked or destroyed or what was used, but it appears as such. Yeah, John, sure, I hear you on that. John Kruger, why did golden ages fall? I'd say for the same thing we breathe, as I said earlier. There's an in breath and out breath to everything. There is the rise and fall of civilization is like the rising and falling of the skirt heights in the world. Go back to short skirts, long skirts, short skirts again. It's it's cyclical, but it's not in a circle. It's in an infinite vortex or a cone shape or a spiral. So it looks like you're coming back to the same place, but you're really not the same place. It's just a very it's you're back at the same place with extra knowledge, right? If you went through the iron, the silver, the bronze, the gold age, that you'd have awareness of it. And there's been people that what you'd call the titans or the gods and all of this, they've already done that. So they came out of the first birthing process, which means they went through, apparently now it'd be 12 golden ages, because you'd have the three. No, actually there's five. They've been through 20 golden ages, so those would be people that are can dip in and out of time, like realm masters, the lords of the rings, Lord of the Rings, because the rings are the concentric circles of where we live. And you can even notice movies now, they're showing you how many realms there are. They got the circle in the middle, and this is where you get a monad from, or the symbol of the sun, which would be the first dot in the first realm. And that's always connected to the Aryan people. The dot with the circle, like a target, like a bullseye. But if you even look at a bullseye, how many rings are there with the red and white ones? It's very close. Um, Jesus was quoted saying, Jesus was quoted saying shit, Stephen K., just to be very clear. Jesus is all of us, but there wasn't some rigid guy, white dude, black dude, I don't care, and everybody's got imagination. So the Jesus they're talking about is, yeah, of course. The quote in saying, destroy a temple and rebuild it in 3 days, yeah, that's a mind could do that. The mind could do anything. That's why we're here. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for imagination. So, but I'm not trying to do that talk here. You know what I mean? Like that's a, that's advanced level mathematics. The mathematics, the you know, the matter, the material, how to bend and mold material with your mind. You know, that's a whole different thing. There you go. The Aryan people were part of the Tartarians. Tartarians. Yes. Let me scroll back through here, and I'll get back to these in a sec. I'll get to you guys in a second. Were people more humane and virtuous? Yeah, but they were from different realms. They were from different times, literally from a different time. Um, it's like asking, why is the wise old man? The wise old owl sat on an oak. The more he saw, the less he spoke. That kind of thing. I mean, these people are for like all time. They're like all time greats, right? That they've been around through the cycles. So they're like, okay, it's a, they accept the work. They accept it. But once they do that, then they can become real masters. So they don't gotta fucking they don't gotta deal with the bullshit. I mean, they come and dip in, but they already have knowledge of how to deal with the bullshit of what's going on in a realm. But they're you know there's knowledge and there's powers too, and so some people have certain kinds of powers. Some good speakers. Some are good orators, right? Some people are they're strong. They can lift things, and some people are quick. Some people are funny. So these are all qualities that are gifts that are activated. You'd say in your DNA, your mind, whatever. So were they more humane? I mean, I don't know. It's like, is a puppy always humane? You know what I'm saying? Like, is a child always? No, they're learning. So it was an yeah, yeah. Gary, the Napoleonic Russian War with the NW was wiping out the Tartars, and then the flood hit. Yeah, the flood is the interesting part of how did that occur. John Kruger again with the Golden Age isn't an illusion. I mean, like I said, we go back to that. Is everything an illusion? I don't want to play that game here because I think it's not fitting in with the dialogue that we're getting at right now. I've made videos on that kind of thing before, but I don't think that you'd kind of get. I would just use Alan Watts' quote there and say, if you could always win the game, you would get bored of winning the game. If you were a god, you would always win the game, and you'd get bored of winning. So you'd hit a surprise me button, and the surprise me button is you jumping into an earlier time, or maybe a less evolved realm where there was a possibility you didn't win the game, because then it becomes kind of exciting, right? Yeah, I don't know about the tools being used, but I'm sure, yeah, I think it was just a combination of mind and physical objects, and making physical objects to the point where they were, you know, organite, essentially. Yeah, there you go. But Gary Baxter just broke it down there for you. It's called Freemasonry because it was Freemasonry. It was already done. The work was already done. So this goes into, in the greatest of ways, what the Freemasons were holding on to was the knowledge that you don't need to do anything to build. It will be built for you. This is what um, who can I use here as a great teacher of this? Oh, Abdullah. Who's Abdullah teaching? You know, it's how to say it. I mean, there's so many teachers that are out there teaching how the mind works, and they're trying to teach to that level. But most people ain't gonna accept that because they're like, that's not real. They're saying you don't need to do anything. You don't lift a finger. This is the idea that Jesus could do something in 3 days because it takes as long as it takes. And I mean, there's just the connection of 3 days, which is always the Jesus was, you know, went into the tomb for 3 days and came out. I mean, which is also connected to the sun because again, it's multifaceted allegories. So the connection to the technology was always the mind, but you gotta. I mean, you use the mind to create the physical world because you don't exist just in the mind because you'd be a space cadet. You have to be in a physical spacesuit. So I have a body and I have physical things and I have clothes that I have to wear. It's, the body functions differently, but it's still part of you know, the mind created this. John Kruger. So hopefully I covered all that. No, they didn't bring the tools with them. I mean, again, if they brought the tools with them, the tools would have been so advanced that they would have their their primary focus would have been building these giant, absurd estates and not making cars. They don't have the technology to build a car, but they have the technology to build a giant building. But for what reason? Did everybody have a home? Or did they all live in these giant buildings together? What's up, Lumena? Yeah. You said the World Fair of 1893, but see, look even harder at that, Lumena. There was World Fairs all over the place all the time. There was a World Fair in 1894 or 1884 in New Orleans. There was one in New York City. There was one in St. Louis. There was one in, I believe, Minneapolis. They were all over, but they used that as a front or a disguise for showing people the technology only to destroy it later. Yeah, Shirley Cortese, the Windsor Castle. It was built in around 1070. Maybe it was. Yeah, maybe. How is it still perfect? Yeah, there you go. Dinosaurs are lie. Nuclear proliferation is bullshit. Our history is pure conjecture. All this shit is done. Yep. Yeah. Read all this. MK Heizek Zenpar wasn't. Yeah. Oh, John Shaw, that's awesome, man. You were telling me that the other day. That's cool, man. Get that metal plate out, homie. Good for you, man. But yeah, that'll give you something to do while you're rehabbing, man. The Mudflood thing is for me. John Shore, if you're still here, I've been saying this as I've been doing research on it. It is as important, if not more important, than flat Earth because it's so easily provable. It's so easy to look at. It's so easy to just go. Doesn't I can physically show this to you. So you see, we live in this realm where everybody relies on physicality to prove something. Everything is physical. Show me the proof. Okay, here it is, right here. Look it. You can show it to people. Okay, I gotta see the numbers. You can work the numbers out. This math ain't working out. And even somebody that has really strong, like, they believe everything that they were told. Even those people, they'll come around on that. They'll start to go, yeah, mud floods, yo. Like it's so obvious. You'll start seeing it in every building. You'll start going, oh, that's right. Why would they do that? Why has that got 4 floors? How do they do that? You start to ask those simple questions. They're unanswerable. Where, and the reason why I say this is a bigger idea than coming to the conclusion that the Earth is flat is because it's great that it's flat. I mean, this is awesome that we know our realm is flat and infinite and blah blah blah. But it's you're going to still have the argument from the establishment. You're always going to have the argument from the people that won't do the work to look. They won't they won't get online and actually watch all the videos because they don't want to do that. And they're not going to go and actually do the simple tests. How many of them are going to get in an airplane and allow themselves not to be convinced that the little curve is causing, they're going to, I've had people say, I've been on an airplane, I've seen the curve. And I'm like, you're absolutely either lying or you've constructed some sort of false narrative in your head because you've got to just say that. Well, of course I've seen the curve. You weren't, no, you didn't. Um, so with the mud flood thing though, you can go look at it. It's 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 even actually it's funny. It's been on a couple news channels too, where even the news is like, look at this is an underground city, and it's so confusing because the underground city has doorways and archways and windows that are underground, that there's no reason they'd be built there, unless of course unless that was the first floor and something came through and flooded the city out to bring the floor up 8 to 10 feet or more. What's up, reality junkie? Haha. Lumeno, you right on about that. The Nikola Tesla didn't invent shit, yo. Tesla to me is as much of a phantom as, say, I think he's more of a phantom than even when I say phantom. Just listen right. This is what I'm saying here. Einstein and Stephen Hawking's are phantoms in the sense that what did they do? They didn't do anything. But I'm saying Tesla probably just didn't even exist. It was or it's just some old dude they took a picture of. Just some old dude. Like here, this is Nikola Tesla. He invented all of this. It's just another. He didn't invent it. He just he was maybe he existed and was able to reverse engineer some things that were going on, but he wouldn't really have to reverse engineer anything because it was already made. It was already there. It was already at all of these fairs. And in fact, what they did is they probably just moved all the cool technology somewhere else. Like here, just leave some of this cool, this corny shit here, and we'll take all the good stuff. High tech. Well, thank you, Ellie Jacobo. You got to dig in sometimes on this shit. There you go, the John Kruger. Thank you. As I'm going backwards here, John Kruger. The Chinese do eat a lot of salt. Connect to the earth. Yes, salty people. They, I think that has to do with like, fishy from the ocean, salty, soy sauce. They have their salty culture. Yeah. And I would say then you get into like what you consider the African people. They're always sitting around a fire, right? And you got Atlanteans. We're always water people, and you got the so there's your air, fire, earth, and water of where we are now. And I think the next thing birthed out is etherics. I mean, it's not birthed out; it's already here. But reality junkies, there you go, man. Zetetic Jim, what's up? Xenosaurus. Okay, I got to the beginning. Michael DeLine, what's up? What's up? So sorry I just got to your comment last. If you're still here, man, let me scroll to the bottom and see what I missed. Yeah, Stephen Hawking. Oh, that dude had ALS and lived like for 50 fucking years. They changed that dude. Like that dude became a robot or an actor or something. He completely changed. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Ben Hayes. Um, yeah, I think the Bible has a lot of good story in there, but again, it's always hidden in the allegory, and it takes a long time to be able to figure out what the symbolism really meant, because you have to reverse, you have to deprogram from everything that you think you know, and then start instilling a new language operating system into your mind, which is okay. I'm working on etymology based upon sounds and tones. I'm not working with what the spelling is and who said it came from over here, because I know what you're saying. So you become a you actually have to you're finding symbols and things. You're finding patterns. You're finding You know, you're finding all of that rather than being told that, well, if I just spell the letter cake, or if I spell the word cake, it means this thing that you make for a birthday, blah blah blah. But you're unaware that the letter C and the letter A and the letter K and the letter E all have a value and a meaning, a super duper like more meaning than you could even imagine. But you're not given that instructions. You just said, have your cake and eat it too, right? B. Johnson, yeah, even their boy Neil deGrasse Tyson, that guy, yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna go there and say it again. These people from NASA, they're telling you the truth, but hidden. It's just like when they say we're gonna go to Mars. Mars is the next realm over. When they say we are, they mean they are. That's what they're gonna do. I mean, that's at least what they want to do. They're gonna attempt to go to Mars. They always had the date to be 2020. Why? Because because Mars is connected to the Lemurians, which are the Asian people. But I doubt the Lemurian people will let them in across into their realm. I mean, if it's up to that, if there's some sort of that shit, I would suppose they'd have to go back a realm. I don't think they would go up unless they're going into the golden age of the Lemurians, but they're not going to take them over. They would end up becoming lower caste in their society. So maybe they're going to go to Mars and become lower caste system and have to be street sweepers or some shit. I don't know, because that's what it would look like. Yeah, I hear you on all that. Ben Hayes, that's awesome. Hey Ben Hayes, can you send me that article or put it in here? I'll come back to this. The article about the Mr. Universe, or I can send look it up myself. But if you can just click on it right now and put it in there, that'd be awesome. That's awesome. Yep. Yeah, MK High Tech. There you are. Reality Junkies top three channels that I watch right now. Well, I already watched all of Levi's videos, JONLEVI. And then your boy Conspiracies Are Us, and then there's this other new dude that I really like, and I apologize I can't think of his name. Um, the thing is, just go to John Levi's channel, and from there he'll in his description box we'll be able to link you to all these other channels. You'll find the ones you like, but Conspiracy RS and John Levi is what's up. I mean, at least for the Mudflood stuff. I mean, that's not all I watch. There's obviously quite a quite a, selection of weird shit that I check out. But Nita Neal, building the mind ties and the guy's idea that star forts grew fractically rather than were built. That's a grand possibility. I don't see why not. I think if they grew fractally, I think the way that they would have done that, yeah, it was New Earth also said this too to a degree. I just don't think there would have been bricks around it. That wouldn't make any sense unless they were use their mind to build bricks to disguise the fact that they did it with their minds. It's a possibility too. But there is some old architecture and stuff that was done very simply, and it was by using hemp and lime, and that hemp and lime is an easy move. You can move. Hemp is lightweight, and lime is plentiful. You could do that, and as it gets older, it gets harder. It becomes like concrete. You can't really tell the difference. So I mean, when people say limestone, how you know? How you know? What do you in there with the microscope checking out to see if it's actually come out of quarry, or did they make it out of hemp and lime? Thank you for the hoodie. Yeah. Is there a goal? Is there destiny? Is there destination? If you'd like there to be. Hey, Stephen K. Okay, cool, cool. You being ironic. Okay. Your high school had wonderful buildings in the 60s, all pulled down and rubbishly built out in the place. Yep. 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 This always happens. John, sure, you met somebody who could travel time. That's cool. Yeah. I don't doubt that at all. So I think I answered. Yeah, and that's it because the cotton. Look at what they've done. They've ruined it. They cotton. Do you eat cotton? You don't eat cotton, but people take cottonseed oil and put it on their food. That's trash. You would never do that. And the hemp, it was it made everything made more sense with hemp, but that was too easy. You gotta make this shit difficult. Yeah, you gotta get rid of it. You gotta get rid of the hemp, dude. You gotta get rid of the ease of building. You gotta get rid of the yeah. All right, y'all. This is an hour in. I was only gonna make this like 10 minutes long. I'm gonna get up and get my day on the way, and maybe I'll come back on here, like I said, and put some, just show you the connections. Oh, here's a new website. No, you'll get it next time. It's just it's a collection of pictures. It's kind of like Shorpy, SHORPY.com, and you can go there and find all amazing pictures of like what was going on in the late 1800s. But there's another one that I found, which was really blowing my mind because, anyways, yeah, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you next time because I can't remember off the top of my head. All right, y'all. I'm gonna get out of here. You have a wonderful day. Go find a way to go have a beverage, and let your imagination run wild. Think good things or not. Tis your choice.